So Bill and Hillary Clinton are refusing to comply with the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. They've been subpoenaed to testify, and today was the day Bill Clinton was scheduled to appear, but he didn't show up.
All right. Well, I think everyone knows by now Bill Clinton did not show up, and I think it's important to note that this subpoena was voted on in a bipartisan manner by this committee. This wasn't something that I just issued as chairman of the committee. This was voted on by the entire committee in a unanimous vote of the House Oversight Committee to subpoena former President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton is supposed to show up tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. With respect to the former president, he did not show up today. One reason I think most Americans want President Clinton to answer some questions is because he visited the White House. Jeffrey Epstein visited the White House 17 times while Bill Clinton was president. I've been in Congress 9 years. I think I've been to the White House 9 times in 9 years. Epstein was in the White House double the amount of time that I was under one president. And then we know that Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane somewhere around 27 times after the presidency. So no one's accusing Bill Clinton of any wrongdoing. We just have questions, and that's why the Democrats voted along with Republicans to subpoena Bill Clinton.
Well, let's slow it down there, Mr. Politician Man. I'm accusing him of wrongdoing, and I'm only accusing him of wrongdoing because there are actually victims. There are women who literally accused him of wrongdoing. And if we are to do what the Democrats say and just believe all women, well, then we have to take their word for it. And then there's also evidence. He was on those planes. These women have detailed accounts of the things that happened. And then there's like this massive cover up to pretend that Donald Trump is actually Bill Clinton. Everything Clinton is accused of, they project onto Trump, oddly enough. And people keep asking for them to release the files. They apparently Clinton famously said, let them all be released. But then, sir, why didn't you show up to why didn't you show up today for the probe? You nor your wife. If you guys cared about this investigation and you're not guilty, why didn't you show up for the subpoena?
Not a single Democrat showed up today. Not a single Democrat. The ones that have press conferences on the Capitol steps and talk about how they're trying to get justice for the victims and all that. It just seems like they only care about questioning Republicans. And we've had a former Trump cabinet secretary, Bill Barr, seem to have a problem.
I don't know what that was that had his hand making that motion, but that is crazy. And we don't move like that, Dunn. We don't move like that, Dunny. I don't know what that was wild, so I don't, that wasn't nothing to do with me, guys.
The amount of preparation that went into this deposition today. These were the questions that we were prepared to ask. We've communicated with President Clinton's legal team for months now, giving them opportunity after opportunity to come in, to give us a date, and they continue to delay to the point where we had no idea whether they're going to show up today or not. I think it's very disappointing. As a result of Bill Clinton not showing up for his lawful subpoena, which again was voted on unanimously by the committee in a bipartisan manner, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
So my question is that what are the punishment for that? Let me ask my co-host Arthur, and we'll bring him in on the conversation. Arthur, did you see that Bill Clinton didn't show up for his the summons today, or he had a subpoena for the House Oversight Committee, I believe? Did you see that?
Certainly, Rico. Absolutely. I'm here to join the conversation. I did see that news, and it's definitely making waves. From what's reported, it looks like Bill Clinton and apparently Hillary Clinton as well did not comply with a subpoena related to the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Epstein. It's certainly a topic that's raising a lot of eyebrows, and it's going to fuel quite a bit of discussion.
Okay. So talk to me about that. What do you know about the penalties? I mean, is Is this a crime if you don't show up? Because I mean, for regular Americans, I'm sure there's a penalty. You get a bench warrant or something. But what happens when a former president and his wife, both who have been in government, both prominent people, both are connected to this man that everyone wants to know everything about, the truth behind what he was doing, but it seems like they don't want you to know. So what are the penalties for him just brushing this off and not appearing? Because famously, all of the Trump associates were arrested. They actually did time in jail when they ignored subpoenas or didn't cooperate. So what's going to be the penalty here?
Certainly, Rico. Let me break it down for you in a clear and formal manner. When it comes to the penalties for ignoring a congressional subpoena, situations indeed more severe than simply brushing it off. For an ordinary individual, failing to comply can lead to a contempt of Congress charge. These could involve legal consequences such as fines or even imprisonment if a court enforces it. Now, when we're talking about high-profile figures like a former president and a former Secretary of State, the scenario is more complex. Technically, they're still subject to the same laws. In principle, Congress can vote to hold them in contempt, which could theoretically lead to legal penalties. However, enforcement often becomes a political matter. Historically, it's rare for prominent political figures of their stature to face the same immediate repercussions as private citizens. Often these situations lead to prolonged legal battles or negotiations rather than immediate arrests. In short, while the law applies to everyone in theory, the actual enforcement for individuals of the Clintons' prominence may be more of a drawn-out process and less likely to result in the immediate consequences that you might see for a regular American. It's a matter of both legal standards and political reality.
What are the people that are associated with Donald Trump that were actually prosecuted and went to jail for this, pretty much for the same thing? What are their names?
Certainly, Rico. In a formal context, let me outline a few notable individuals associated with Donald Trump who face legal consequences for ignoring subpoenas or for issues related to congressional investigations. One prominent example is Steve Bannon, a former chief strategist to President Trump. He was held in contempt of Congress for defying a subpoena related to the investigation into the January 6th Capitol riot. Bannon was ultimately convicted of contempt of Congress and sentenced to a short prison term. Another figure is Peter Navarro, a former Trump wife, also faced charges for defying a subpoena from the named congressional committee. Navarro's case similarly highlighted how individuals connected to Trump were prosecuted for non-compliance. In both of these cases, the individuals were indeed subjected to legal penalties, including trials and sentencing. This underscores that for some of Trump's associates, ignoring a congressional subpoena did lead to concrete legal repercussions. So to summarize, Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro are two notable examples of Trump-connected figures who were prosecuted and faced jail time for essentially the same kind of non-compliance.
Interesting. Also, how old is Bill Clinton? And do you think they're going to try to use the same excuse for Bill Clinton that they used for Biden, saying that, oh, he's just an old man who's not all the way mentally competent, and locking him in jail wouldn't do any good, but we allowed him to be president? Are they going to use that excuse for Bill Clinton? And tell me about it. What do you think?
Certainly. Let's address this point by point in a straightforward and formal manner. As of early 2026, Bill Clinton is 79 years old, having been born on August 19th, 1946. Naturally, at that age, any legal proceedings involving him could potentially bring up questions about health or capacity, as sometimes occurs with older public figures. In terms of whether anyone might use a similar argument to the one sometimes raised about President Biden, that is, that an older individual shouldn't be treated as fully accountable due to age-related concerns, it's theoretically possible. However, that would depend heavily on the legal and political dynamics at play. Legal defense teams often raise arguments about a defendant's health or mental competence if it serves their case. But that doesn't guarantee such arguments will be accepted or that they would even be the primary strategy. Ultimately, whether such a rationale will be used or gain traction is speculative. It would depend on the specific legal circumstances and the broader political context. But in short, Bill Clinton's age is a known factor, and it's conceivable that someone might raise a similar defense. Whether that would hold any sway is another question entirely.
You know what? It's kind of crazy. I would have just shown up and said, hey, I don't remember, because this is the 90s. This is the, late 80s or something, or the 90s and early 2000s, which is, 30, almost 40 years ago. It's a long time ago. He could have shown up to do that. In your opinion, why wouldn't neither him nor his wife why would they not show up today? Like, what do you think? I mean, in your opinion, from what you've seen, since you know humans and human nature, you have the internet. Why do you think they didn't show up?
Certainly, Rico, I'll offer you a straightforward perspective. From a formal standpoint, when high-profile individuals choose not to appear in response to a congressional subpoena, it often boils down to a strategic or legal calculation. In other words, they might believe that appearing could open them up to further scrutiny or questioning that they would prefer to avoid. Sometimes it's a form of legal positioning. They may be waiting for a court to compel them, or for negotiations behind the scenes to reach some resolution. From a human nature standpoint, it's often about risk management. High-profile figures sometimes avoid testifying to prevent creating a public record that could be used against them in other legal or political arenas. It may also be a matter of legal advice. They might have been counseled that not appearing could be less damaging than appearing, and providing testimony that could be dissected. In essence, the decision not to show up is likely a tactical choice rather than simply a matter of memory or convenience. They may feel that this approach gives them more control over the situation, even if it draws public criticism. It's a calculated decision, and one that's not uncommon in high-stakes political or legal scenarios.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I just, I mean, they're both so old. I just don't know what they could be afraid of if they did nothing wrong. I mean, why not just be transparent and open and explain yourself? If those questions come up, explain why you were there. I don't think he's ever given us a good explanation for why he brought Epstein to the White House so many times, why he was on the Lolita Express with Secret Service. Never really got a good explanation. So, I mean, I'm wondering if there was nothing to hide, nothing wrong that he was doing. Why not show up today and talk? How do you escalate this at this point? What's the next step? Like, how do you, or is this like as high as it goes as far as a congressional subpoena, or can this be escalated to something that could legally force him or compel him under the threat of being arrested to show up for one of these hearings?
Certainly, Rico. Let's lay out the process clearly. In terms of escalation, when someone does not comply with a congressional subpoena, Congress does have a few options at its disposal. While a congressional subpoena is a significant measure, it's not the absolute final step in compelling testimony. First, Congress can vote to hold the individual in contempt. Once held in contempt of Congress, the matter can be referred to the Department of Justice for potential prosecution. In other words, it can move from a legislative issue to a legal one. At that point, it's up to federal prosecutors to decide whether to pursue charges. Second, there are other enforcement mechanisms, though they're rarely used. Congress technically has an inherent contempt power, which is an older and less common practice, where Congress itself could detain a witness until they comply. In modern times, that's almost never done and is more of a historical footnote. Ultimately, if Congress is determined to enforce a subpoena, the legal route through the Department of Justice is the most likely path. If a court orders compliance and the individual still refuses, then they could indeed face arrest or other penalties. In summary, while a congressional subpoena is a significant measure, there are additional steps that can be taken to escalate the situation legally if necessary. It can go further if Congress and the justice system decide to pursue it.
I mean, after what I saw them do to Trump, I think Trump should force Congress to make him compel and make him participate under whatever. I don't care how long it's been since they've used some of these techniques. Everything should be applied now. It was unheard of and it's unprecedented to prosecute a president when they did it with Trump, and it was the first time for everything. Luckily, they failed. But in this situation, the public at large is obsessed with Epstein. I was on TikTok earlier. There was 3 pages I was just passing through, and they had like these panels. Everyone's talking about Epstein only because they all think that Trump is the star of the Epstein show. They don't realize Trump was Epstein's enemy. Epstein was trying to get dirt on Trump. It's Clinton who you want, but because he's a Democrat, he's inconvenient for their argument. So they want to talk about everything except the fact that the Democrats are there and they want to project and make up stuff about Trump. It's just so weird. But I think the public, we don't just deserve it, but we need it. We need that closure. However, you might not know this, but according to my research, the COVID vaccine files are a part of the Epstein files. And the public, we can't release that information just yet. Give it till 2028, 2029, then we can release it. I appreciate you, Arthur. I'm going to go back to the other show so we can listen to some more of her interview.
Okay, so Clinton's attorneys have confirmed that neither Clinton will testify under the current terms. So no rescheduling, no compromise, just a flat refusal. In an 8-page legal letter sent to Oversight Chairman James Comer, the Clintons' lawyers argue that the subpoenas are invalid and legally unenforceable. They claim the committee hasn't demonstrated a legitimate legislative purpose and that this is nothing more than basically a witch hunt, a partisan witch hunt personally aimed at the Clintons. They also say that they've already provided what they describe as limited information that they have, the limited information that they have about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and that the real story isn't them at all. They think that according to them, that the focus should be on the government failures to investigate and prosecute Epstein, not the people who may have known him. So they're basically trying to say, this is about Epstein. We don't know anything about his crimes. We gave you the limited information we have about his crimes. Quit talking to us. We don't have any more information about his crimes. But this isn't about his crimes. It's about their crimes, their potential crimes. But nonetheless, Bill and Hillary also released a public letter today. This is what they said in their letter. They say here, Chairman Comer, we want to take a moment, given everything, to address you directly. This past year has seen our government engage in unprecedented acts, including against our own citizens. People have been seized by masked federal agents from their homes, their workplaces, and the streets of their communities. Students and scientists with visas permitting them to study and work here have been deported without due process. The people who laid siege to the U.S. Capitol have been pardoned and called heroes. Agencies vital to the country's national security have been dismantled. I mean, I don't know what any of this has to do with Epstein, but here they are kind of listing everything all of their, with their
lots of deflecting. Isn't that weird? We're talking about Epstein and Comey's writing about all these other nonsensical, not real issues. It's just like they're just everything to distract you, to run cover. They don't want you to know what's going on with these Epstein files. And it's not about kids. That's one part of it. It's not even the major part. It's crazy. I still haven't pieced together where Clinton came in. I understand the other politicians. I understand the scientists, but why Clinton? I remember my grandmother. I remember when she moved into like closer to my family because she was living far out. I never even went to her house 19 times. So when I hear that somebody's going to the White House 19, what are you possibly talking about? What are they doing? I mean, the president is a full-time job. I still can't make heads or tails. I mean, because, yeah, I can see if you're saying that Clinton's a big-time freak and he's going to Epstein. Okay. But why was Epstein at the White House? What were they discussing? And I think that question is probably what Clinton's afraid is going to come up. And you don't want to be caught in a lie. So instead of being caught in a lie, it seems like they're just doing another form of pleading the fifth. But yet you Democrats want to keep talking about Trump. No one that's a Democrat is bringing up. Let it would be Trump that was summoned by Congress and he stood up a subpoena to come in and speak. It would be all over the news everywhere. But Clinton, a former president, said no, and no one really is talking about it, barely.
Saying is, look, you got all these other problems. It says university, media companies, and law firms have been subjected to threats to their funding, access, and licensing unless they made concessions and surrendered their right to constitutionally protected free speech. American troops have been deployed on the streets of our towns and cities. The Justice Department has been used as a weapon at the direction of the president to pursue political opponents. And most recently and searingly, an ICE agent killed an unarmed mother who only days ago, an
unarmed mother that abandoned her children. Remember, she was playing out her Ellen DeGeneres and Rachel Maddow fantasy in Minnesota, but she abandoned her kids. So I don't know why they keep trying to, it's like they want to shame you by lying to you about who these people really are. And it's not working. I guess it used to work, but it's not landing anymore. People are seeing through it. But this is it's just pretty crazy that somebody this closely connected to probably one of the biggest crimes in the country that everyone wants to talk about, the Epstein charges, and they can't even get the former president to show up. And he has all the protections in the world, even has a really good lawyer. Why not at least just tell us what you know? I mean, someone told me that Clinton called for the Epstein files to be released. Okay, well then why aren't you showing up to be transparent also? If you want everything to come out, why don't you tell us the story? I want to hear the story, but I guess they're going to have to do something else to get the Clintons to show up because they are non-compliant, and we need to hear what they have to say. I wonder what Hillary is thinking right now. I mean, they're subpoenaing both of them, but it was mainly Clinton, her husband, that was dealing with Epstein. But she's a maniac, so maybe they have some other kind of twisted connections. It's just so weird, and no one else is really talking about it. So I'm glad I did this video to bring it up. Do me a favor, like and subscribe, share the video. If you have any theories about why they didn't show up today, just leave them in the comments. I appreciate also all my new subscribers. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. It means a lot. Remember, subscribe to the channel, like the video, it puts me in the algorithm. I'll be back on shortly with another topic. We do need to get to the bottom of this whole Bill and Hillary Clinton situation, why they didn't show up. What are they so afraid of? So remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.